Hey, Canada! Welcome back to another episode of Question Period. Today is June 5th? June 6th? January, February, March, April, May. June 5th, 2025, and we've got one heck of a news cycle lined up for you. Turns out there was supposed to be a vote of non-confidence sort of kind of thing that happened yesterday, late last night, after Question Period. Everybody left Parliament. They were all drinking at the bar across the street, probably, and sleeping, making lots of money on taxpayers' dime. And there's supposed to be a throne speech vote. And I streamed it. I mean, maybe you remember, maybe you don't. Bunch you were throwing a bunch of numbers down in there. Weird, but we got through it. So what happened with that? Well, just to put it in terms that I understand, they basically counted the votes, not publicly, and decided just not to do it for the public. That's pretty much how it was explained to me, as if I'm a fifth grader. So I'm going to regurgitate it to you guys. So it happened in the shadows, and it wasn't going to possibly be in our favor. So they said, you know what, let's just keep it in the shadows and move on. So there you go. No real vote of confidence. Or is there? Well, possibly. There's reason to believe that next week they're going to vote on something, which is going to be, again, a separate type of denomination of vote of confidence. I don't really know. I'm just politically exhausted. But what I am enjoying is the fact that the Conservatives are back. They're back. At least yesterday they were. Going up against Carney before he ran out of the house and just throwing out the zingers. It was phenomenal to see that. And I think that we deserve that. We don't deserve the boring question period. We deserve the enthusiastic F Carney momentum in the House, just like we had with Justin Trudeau. And in fact, it's actually a lot easier to ridicule Mark Carney in the House because he's got no idea what the heck he's doing. He's not built for this. He's built for the shadows. He's a weird, creepy Mr. Burns. He's not built for the spotlight. He doesn't do well on his feet. So, yeah. We're going to have to wait and see how that plays out. We don't know if he's going to show up today. We can only anticipate. He's kind of positioned himself to be the guy that might show up and might not show up, even more than Justin Trudeau. Like Trudeau, you didn't know. It was on his calendar, and then it would come time for question period, and it's like, where's Trudeau? And it's like, oh, no, he's on his way to Italy. What? Okay, sure, that doesn't make sense, but thanks for updating your calendar in a timely fashion. With Mark Carney, we don't really know. I hope he shows up today, but we don't know. Anyways, we got a lot of news to take a look at before we get into QP, such as Donald Trump has a massive travel ban on like 12 countries. Danielle Smith is talking to Americans about tariffs, going, hey, these tariffs are bad for Americans, which is factually correct, but I just don't like how Canadian politicians are speaking to Americans. Like it doesn't make a difference at all. It's just weird. And if we've got time, we've got the fat pig with rabies mentality, Doug Ford, appearing on ABC because he just loves to go and talk to Americans on American TV shows, just like a true Canadian patriot he is. So before we get into the video here, I do want to encourage you all to hit the like button and subscribe if you haven't yet already. It does really help grow the channel, and it does help push the live streams out further. I'm going to take a very weird sip of coffee right now. Okay, fill the gap. And without further ado, let's get into what's going on with my voice. I'm trying to quit smoking. I don't like smoking cigarettes. I'm trying to quit, though. Since last night. Almost 12 hours in. I might have to go get some more smokes. It's been too long. We're going to try and quit smoking, though. We're going to try and quit smoking. We'll see how stressful this is. If this is a stressful question period, I'm walking right to the gas station, buddy, and I'm packing 3 darts. Maybe not. I don't know. I don't want to smoke cigarettes. You know, it's just kind of... It makes me feel a little sluggish, and then I smell like it. I just want to be like the healthiest version of myself for my kids. You know what I'm saying? Anyways, probably TMI. Let's get into this video, shall we? Into this live stream. We're going to start off with how Donald Trump is announcing. Well, he's announced a travel ban on 12 countries. I hope it's not Canada, man, because I got plans to go to America later this year. Uh-oh. Let's take a look.
U.S. President Donald Trump has announced a full travel ban on 12 countries and partial ban on 7 others. Their countries his administration deems dangerous, calling them a risk to national security. Reporter Steve Futterman is on this story for us. He joins us now from Los Angeles. So, Steve, what are the details on these bans?
Well, Arthi, if you hear travel ban and Donald Trump, you may say, didn't I hear this once before? Yes. In 2017, Donald Trump imposed what was widely called a Muslim ban. This is similar, not identical. As you mentioned, 12 countries will be affected with this total travel ban. We can take a look at some of them now. Mostly countries in the Middle East and Africa, among them Afghanistan, Libya, Iran, Somalia. There are other countries, 7 other countries. We can take a look at those right now who will be.
I'm just kidding. But it's actually surprising to not see Canada on that list. Am I the only one that's kind of shocked by that? Not that I was expecting Canada to be on the list, but I wasn't not expecting, if that makes any sense. Like, I wouldn't have been surprised, given the fact that our border is blah, 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 and tariffs and bad actors and whatever excuse they want to come up with. I just wouldn't have been surprised if Canada would have been on that list. I mean, we have a lot of people that go there, like millions of people every year. We provide a lot of, financial benefit, via tourism, but it would have been just an insane troll for him to put Canada on that list and say, whoops, I don't know how that got there, but I'm glad he didn't.
Given partial travel bans. These countries include, you see there, Cuba, Laos, and Venezuela. Now, Trump, in making his announcement last night, talked about people who enter the U.S. and don't leave, people who enter the U.S. legally who don't leave, and people who enter the U.S. illegally. Take a listen.
The recent terror attack in Boulder, Colorado, has underscored the extreme dangers posed to our country by the entry of foreign nationals who are not properly vetted, as well as those who come here as temporary visitors and overstay their visas. We don't want them. We will not allow people to enter our country who wish to do us harm, and nothing will stop us from keeping America safe.
Now, the man he referred to there in Colorado, he was an Egyptian man, entered the country legally, but stayed beyond his work permit. Ironically, Egypt is not on either of those lists. Now, there are some exemptions. Green card holders will be exempted. And very interestingly, Arthi, people who are athletes and coaches for next year's World Cup and the 2028 Summer Olympics here in LA, they are also exempted from this travel ban. So we'll see how it goes. But right now, this is scheduled to take effect on Monday.
As with many of the U.S. president's recent policies or proposals, there are legal challenges often. Is that the case here, too?
There will be. We haven't seen any today. This was just announced last night, but I would not be surprised if we see some legal challenges as early as today. And there has been some, pushback. Let's take a listen to a UN representative in Africa who's very much opposed to what Trump is proposing.
Refugees are coming in very dire situation. What they are reporting to us is difficult to hear. Horrendous stories of human rights violation. They are fleeing in terror. Many under fire, extortion, as they reported to us.
Now, these are some people who might have been allowed into the U.S. before the travel ban, who might not be allowed to right now. And this is one of the big concerns. People who need to leave, who the U.S. is one of their only places of refugee status they can get. Will they be prevented from coming here? Now, you mentioned the legal challenges. There were legal challenges in 2017. In fact, the Supreme Court, after several revisions where Trump's proposals were rejected, Trump tweaked his proposals, and the Supreme Court gave him eventually basically broad authority to stop people from certain countries from entering the U.S. So it'll be very difficult, I think, for legal challenges because the Trump people know what they can.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like everything that President Trump is doing is facing immense legal battles. I don't know if that's good. I don't know if that's bad. That's just part of their democratic process. But I want to pass a question off to you. How do you feel about America having all these travel bans on other countries? Should Canada be following suit? Should Canada think of posing travel bans on countries that have bad actors? Like, just statistically, should we just keep our open borders? I don't know. I'd love to know what you guys think down below, though. Here is Trump today talking about how he's very excited and it can't come soon enough.
travel ban. Why now? And if the Boulder attack was part of your reasoning, why not include Egypt on that list where the suspect is from?
Well, because Egypt has been a country that we deal with very closely. They have things under control. The countries that we have don't have things under control. And why now? I can say that it can't come soon enough, frankly. We want to keep bad people out of our country. The Biden administration allowed some horrendous people, and we're getting them out one by one, and we're not stopping until we get them out. We have thousands of murderers. I even hate to say this in front of the chancellor. Of course, you have a little problem, too, with some of the people that were allowed into your country. It's not your fault. It's not your fault. It shouldn't have happened. I told her it shouldn't have happened, what she did. But you have your own difficulty with that, and we do, and we're moving them out, and we're moving them out very strongly. But it can't come fast enough. We want to get them out. We want to get them out now. We don't want to have other bad people coming into our country, but using the word bad, I'm being nice. Okay, question.
Wow. So maybe let me know down in the comments what countries you think that Canada should start to look at travel bans from. Off the top of my head, I mean, the ones that most of the T word people kind of come from, you know, that would be a pretty good start. But other than that, I don't just have a list ready to go. But maybe if we started to follow America's footsteps a little bit more, not just to show loyalty to them, but also to protect ourselves, I probably wouldn't hurt. It'd probably only be a really big benefit. Anyways, now we're going to switch off to some Canadian stuff, specifically the premiers. Let's take a look here at the 7 projects for Prime Minister Carney to consider.
It's the first time the premiers are meeting in person since the federal election, and they've each come with a list. The provinces are being asked to pitch nation-building projects, and PEI Premier Rob Lance says he has 7.
As you can imagine, Prince Edward Island, a very small province. I think anything we advance is probably not going to rise to the level of a national interest project, but we've been discussing a regional project with the other Atlantic provinces around energy security.
Lance did not say what form this regional energy project would take, just that they want to build more reliable transmission with increased capacity, and something that can connect Atlantic Canada to the rest of the country. Other pitches the Prime Minister will hear from PEI: a new shipping port, expanded air cargo, and a year-round connection to Nova Scotia.
The Prime Minister has been very vocal that he wants the provinces to be very ambitious on these projects. So you know, we've brainstormed, and you know, it could be year-round ferry service. I'd go so far as to say we could have another fixed link to the mainland if we really wanted to be ambitious.
The last 3 pitches are expanded 3-phase power and cell phone coverage and a second road in and out of West Prince. Over the weekend, PEI also became the latest province to sign a memorandum of understanding with Ontario. The document isn't binding, but says the provinces will continue to work together to remove trade barriers, particularly when it comes to the sale of alcohol. Some provinces are already coming to the table at these meetings feeling more frustrated than others, with sentiments of Western alienation brewing. Alberta Premier Danielle Smith wants the federal government to allow for increased production in the oil sands, and Lance says he believes each province should be able to pursue its own interests.
What's good for Alberta is what's good for Prince Edward Island.
The Prime Minister has said once they decide which big projects are happening, the federal government will fast-track the necessary approvals. Nicola McLeod, CBC News.
Yeah, unfortunately, though, when it comes to the pipelines, you have one radical left-wing premier in particular who is blocking it, and that's David Eby, who I love so much because he just can't keep me out of his mouth in the news. All he does is talk about Mr. Sunshine, baby. He did it also quite recently. That's why I love him. I like David Eby. All right. But back to reality here. David Eby is like the only premier that's pretty much, other than Quebec, pretty much saying we don't want a pipeline going through our province. So is this pipeline ever going to get built? I don't know. I'd love for it to get built. We just need, just in this moment, just make it happen. Just use the powers at B to just make it happen. Just like clean sweep it. Just shut them down, shut them up, and just make it happen. I'm sorry. Does that make me a bad person? Maybe. Does it make me not care about the repercussions of using those emergency powers? Probably. But we freaking need it, man. We just need somebody with the cojones to do that. Oh, my goodness. And in a recent video, we also talked about the indigenous aspect and how a lot of indigenous some indigenous communities are always putting up these blockades. For the most part, like the majority of indigenous communities are pro these pipelines and pro this type of building for LNG, oil and gas, all that stuff, because it brings so much money and jobs to their communities. There's only very few indigenous communities that put up these roadblocks and say, no, we're not agreeing to these terms. And they're like very, very good terms to agree on. But they just, I don't know. So do we just plow through that and just get it done anyways? I don't know, but maybe kind of, sort of. We're just gonna have to wait and see if the government has the balls to do that. But speaking of balls, let's switch back here to Danielle Smith, who goes on American television, or tells the American audience rather, that tariffs make no sense, which I don't see why Canadian politicians have been doing this. Danielle Smith has been pretty good about not doing this. It's been mostly the liberal politicians that have done this. I don't know if I fully agree with Danielle going to do this, but it is what it is.
Premier Danielle Smith is in Washington, D.C. this week, telling an American media outlet that President Donald Trump's tariffs make no sense. The 50% hike on aluminum and steel took effect yesterday. Canadian steel roofers and brewers that use aluminum cans say they are facing big-time trouble. Smith is in the U.S. Capitol for meetings and a forum on energy and had this to say to Bloomberg Radio.
I've always felt that tariffs are their own punishment, and I still don't understand why Americans want to punish the consumers of aluminum when you get 60% of it from Canada. It's also a product that Americans can't produce themselves. You don't have bauxite, so there is no way to have a homegrown aluminum industry. So we're kind of scratching our heads.
Federal Conservatives and the New Democrat leaders want Canada to strike back against the U.S. As mentioned, the Liberal government will not say at this point if it's going to retaliate. The Premier says she hopes Canada and the United States can have a trade breakthrough by the end of the upcoming G7 summit.
Oh, my goodness. That's right. The G7 summit's happening, and Papa Trump is coming to town, and he's going to steamroll through our Canadian politicians. I mean, he just increased tariffs 50% on steel and aluminum and the auto sector or whatever it was. And now he's shown up here in Canada for what, a peaceful meeting? I mean, there's going to be so much tension. You're going to be able to cut the tension in the air with a freaking butter knife, man. It's going to be crazy. It's going to be crazy. Anyways, I look forward to it. I look very much forward to the G7. Now we're going to take a look here at this video where Prime Minister Carney is holding off on retaliatory tariffs against the U.S. because maybe something big is imminent, right? This is the recent criticism that Mark Carney is facing is, why aren't you actually implementing retaliatory tariffs? You literally campaigned on this. So why aren't you doing it? Well, let's take a look.
Fight a war without steel and aluminum production in America. You have to be able to make it. If you don't have the ability to make your own steel and aluminum, you can't fight a war. And that is what the president's doing. He's trying to make sure that we make sufficient steel and aluminum.
That is U.S. Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick defending President Donald Trump's move to double tariffs on steel and aluminum to 50%. As Canada and the U.S. continue to try and work out a new agreement of sorts, Prime Minister Mark Carney says his government will take some time to respond as those negotiations continue. Have a listen.
We have counter tariffs in a gross amount before remissions on over $90 billion of U.S. imports. We've acted strong. Those are in place. We will take some time, not much, some time, because we are in intensive discussions right now with the Americans on the trading relationship. Those discussions are progressing. I would note that the American action is a global action. It's not one targeted at Canada. So we will take some time, but not more.
So know should.
So this guy campaigned fully on the fact that we're going to stand up to Trump and that we're going to have retaliatory tariffs on America and that we got to fight the big evil man, right? And now he's not even doing it. He's basically kicking the can as far down the road as he possibly can. And this is why I think that this is a really bad strategy for the Liberals. Not that they should come out the gate, guns blazing and say, you know what, we're just going to get into a pissing contest and hit you with retaliatory tariffs. But the man literally just got elected. I mean, we're all living in the same timeline, right? We all just witnessed an election happen where the biggest thing wasn't cost of living in Canada. It wasn't the housing crisis in Canada. It wasn't even the drugs and crime in Canada. It was the big bad orange man, Donald Trump, the president of the United States. He's the biggest threat to Canada right now. Our politicians have been continuously saying that. And so we're facing the biggest threat to Canada right now in real time. And there's no action being taken. I feel like Liberals are going to have a lot of buyer's remorse. I don't know. Is it good? Is it bad? Let's see what the panel has to say.
As you heard Mark Carney there, Premier Ford singing a very different tune. We had Minister Vic Fedeli on earlier in the program. They want counter tariffs to the same tune, another 25% immediately levied on the United States. Why do you think the feds are hesitant to go down that route?
I think, Vashi, that it's because they must be close to some kind of a deal. There was a kind of a look in Carney's eye today, I thought, that suggested that something must be imminent. And I mean, he made a point of talking about how these are global tariffs, not necessarily targeted at Canada. Now, at Queen's Park earlier today, when we were speaking with Premier Ford, he echoed what Minister Vic Fedeli, I guess Vic Fedeli technically echoed what Ford said, that he's a quote unquote 1,000% behind whatever retaliation that Prime Minister Carney's government chooses to take, but they're not doing anything beyond that right now. They're saber rattling for sure, and you still can't buy bourbon in Ontario or American or California wine on LCBO shelves. But there's no new retaliation from Ontario, even though Premier Ford was on U.S. cable networks today, pounding the drum and everything like that, and sounding like he wants to go to a trade war. But I don't know. I suspect something must be imminent, either that or Carney's flat-footed.
How long, Carl, does the Prime Minister have to kind of, do something or share more with Canadians? I can understand not wanting to further antagonize the Americans if something is imminent, but I can also understand the kinds of questions he got from the opposition in the House of Commons today, which were like, hey, you told us a different story during the campaign.
Yeah. Well, I think the Prime Minister was very clear. He's going to take some time, but not more, whatever that means.
But the whole campaign, the whole promise of why he was elected, which objectively speaking, right, he got not way more, but he got significantly more votes, enough to obviously have almost a majority government. He got more votes than all other parties. He got a lot of votes. More than half of the voting population in this country voted for Carney and the Liberals. They didn't just vote for their respective MPs. Let's face it. It was Carney versus Pierre. When people went to the ballot stations, when they went to the voting polls, they were voting for who they thought would be the best prime minister. I know that's not really how it works in Canada. You vote for your local representative, but let's just be honest, right? That's not what this was about at all. It was Pierre versus Carney. We all know that. So Carney won with the majority of votes. It is what it is. But again, his biggest talking point, his biggest platform was, we need to stand up to America. We're going to hit America back. We're going to hit them where it hurts. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. We're going to hit them with tariffs because Canada is a sovereign country. We'll never be the first state. Like, he just went on and on and on about this. And now we find out that it was all a bunch of malarkey. It didn't mean anything. It had no substance. If there were an election to happen in like a month from now, it's just like a surprise election, I think a lot of Liberals would choose to not vote Liberal again. They would probably go back to voting NDP. And if the Conservatives maintained a similar fan base or voter base as what they had in this last election, I think that most of those votes from the Liberals would go back to the NDP, back to the Bloc, and you would see, maybe a Conservative minority government. But maybe that's just me living in fantasy land. Who knows?
The problem with that is that, of course, he doesn't want to have a hard deadline. But Canadians, they would like to see a government that, can the way they campaign, elbows up, right? That's what the phrase was. That was the slogan. Yeah. And they would like the government to respond in kind. And but to be fair, the same goes for like Doug Ford. Whatever happened to raising prices on electricity? Whatever happened on pulling the plug? Yeah. Like, that's the same kind of situation. Nobody wants to do anything to undermine the negotiations. But the question Canadians have is, will that new agreement be worth the paper it's written on? Because we have an agreement in place right now, and it's being disregarded by the Trump administration.
Yeah, and I think also as a Canadian, I don't know if everyone else thinks this. I understand, Jamie, that you can't there's a desire right now not to negotiate this in public, but I don't really understand to what end there are negotiations. Like, what kind of agreement are you hoping to reach? What are the parameters? Like, what will this inform going forward? Like, what are we kind of waiting for with bated breath? No one has really answered any specifics on that.
Yeah, I think perhaps actually the most charitable thing you could say is we keep hearing reports that Minister LeBlanc is spending a ton of time down there. The fact that these are unannounced trips and very productive, or ought to be very productive working meetings. I think when you look at how Mark Carney has communicated in his for just a few months as Prime Minister, he's not one prone to hyperbole. So that suggests to me that they think they have something imminent that is going to be something as it relates to whether it's a renegotiation of USMCA, whatever the Continental Security Agreement is. Whatever that is going to be suggests that the Prime Minister thinks there's something to be said there. And perhaps this is also, really, frankly, him testing President Trump in terms of what is the ability to make a deal and stick with it. Because I do think if you even go back to January, this made international news last week when he was asked about it in the White House. But like, the taco trade's a real thing. Trump always chickens out. He often backs down at the 11th hour. And so what is like the precarity of this going to be? And so I think what you're seeing from Prime Minister Carney right now is he's putting a lot of chips down on the table saying, let's buy some time. We're trying to work for something bigger. Minister LeBlanc's working on it. If he comes back empty-handed and there's not something real, and you're starting to see mass layoffs at steel production facilities overnight, that political honeymoon and kind of that time for goodwill, not today, but just a bit of time, or however it was that Carl quoted it back to it, the urgency for now is going to be really quick when those layoffs get issued.
Well, that's kind of what's happening right now, in my unprofessional opinion, is I think that the honeymoon phase for Mark Carney is gone, right? I mean, chances are, if you're watching this video, you didn't experience the honeymoon phase. I certainly didn't experience the honeymoon phase. I was never in that honeymoon phase. None of us were in that honeymoon phase with Mark Carney, but a lot of people that voted for him are and might still be. But he's not delivering on the promises. We don't have a budget, which is a huge red flag to anybody who's even voting in this country. I don't care what party you voted for. If Pierre was prime minister and he said, you know what, we're not going to do a budget right now, we're just going to do one next year, just trust us, man, I would be swinging the hammer of criticism, as would every other creator in this space. It's not just because it's Carney who's not delivering the budget. It's because it's the leader who's not delivering the budget. So there's already so many red flags. And the fact that Carney even pulled out during the prime minister campaign, during the election, he pulled out of retaliatory tariffs, the dollar for dollar tariffs, silently pulled out. We now know this. Okay, wow. So he's really not off to a good start. And the first ever vote in the House, he got ganged up on by all the other parties, which is incredible. So the honeymoon phase doesn't really exist anymore. It was very short-lived. This whole thing about being an outsider, not being a politician, and just being this banker with all this knowledge of how everything works, we're seeing that expire very prematurely. I mean, you would think that as a new prime minister, you would be able to win people over, even those who voted against you in the early months, not month, in the early months of doing your job, because you're in power. It's a whole new dynamic. There's a whole change. You're trying to rebrand from what was to what you want. And it's just not going that way at all. So again, we're going to have to wait and see how this plays out. But I don't think that this is looking good for Carney right out the gate. Anyways, Let's now take a look, ladies and gentlemen, at question period. They are in the House. I gotta lower the volume. They are in the House right now. They're doing statements by members, and we are going to take a look at question period here in a moment. But before we do, I do want to encourage everyone to hit that like button. How many likes are we at right now? We're almost at 400 likes. Can we just get up to 500 likes? Can there just be a few hundred of you in there that are like, you know what? I haven't hit the like button. I'm just going to hit it right now to shut this guy up. That'd be super awesome. Let's just see if we can get a big wave of hundreds of likes. And subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet already. I think we're almost at 129,000. And without further ado, let's take a look now at what's going on in question period.
To park in peace and where parents could let their kids walk to the school safely, but not anymore. Just yesterday, the York Regional Police executed 15 search warrants in Richmond Hill and neighboring communities against criminal organizations. 23 people arrested, over 300 charges laid, 32 legal firearms seized, and 700,000 doses of fentanyl, enough to kill a city, were found. In another case from the Toronto Police, 10 criminals were arrested after a mass shooting on March 7th. Multiple guns were seized. 200 criminal charges were laid, including 24 counts of murder. This is what happens when the Liberals govern with ideology instead of common sense. It's time to punish organized crime, stop the flow of deadly drugs across our borders, keep criminals behind bars, and bring home safety to our streets. Enough is enough. The Liberal government needs to stop handcuffing our police officers and finally start handcuffing the criminals and keep them in jail.
Hear, hear. Honourable Member for Brampton South.
I rise today to share my heartfelt congratulations to all the graduates of 2025 from Brampton South and across Canada. Graduation marks the completion of years of hard work and perseverance. Through their academic journey, each graduate has shown incredible growth as a young scholar and Canadian. To all the parents, teachers, and mentors, thank you for all your hard work to support our graduates in their path of dreams. As the 2025 graduate class embarks on a new chapter filled with possibilities, I would like to wish every graduate all the best in their future endeavors, and I look forward to celebrating their continued successes. Congratulations to class 2025 and best wishes.
The Honourable Member for Montmorency-Charlevoix. Mr. Speaker, the price of homes is skyrocketing across Canada. If you look at Toronto in particular, the market has collapsed by 89% in recent months if you compare it with the last 10 years, and the market's been in crisis for 7 consecutive months. Imagine the extent to which it's problematic in Montmorency-Charlevoix. It's so hard to find homes, and businesses are unable to attract workers to come work in our region, so there's a major economic impact due to the lack of housing. We need to bring back common sense to our policies and do what the Conservative Party has proposed. We need to cut taxes, build the homes, and give the dream of home ownership back to Canadians so that all families can live in beautiful regions like Montmorency-Charlevoix. The Honourable Member for Repentigny. Mr. Speaker, today let us mark World Environment Day. The theme this year is ending plastic pollution. Every year, Canadians throw away more than 3 million tons of plastic waste. This waste weighs on our economy, and it threatens people's health. It also threatens our wildlife, our rivers, our lakes, and our oceans. And more than 99% of plastic is made using fossil fuels. So it's the same people who are poisoning us with their oil and their gas who are also filling every corner of the planet, from the bottom of the ocean to our dinner plates, with plastic. In 2 months, countries from around the world will meet to adopt a worldwide treaty to get out of plastic. The best way to fix this problem is very simple. It's to produce less plastic. And there are alternatives that already exist. We shouldn't be filling the pockets of the oil and gas sector. Rather, we should be protecting our environment and leaving clean water for our children. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Member for Vancouver Quadra.
I rose to ask a question, and in the interest of time, I was not able to introduce myself. I'm the proud member representing the people from Vancouver Quadra, and I am the very first member of the Musqueam First Nation to hold a seat in this House.
That's cool, I guess.
I want to thank my family. I want to thank my volunteers. I want to thank those that helped me on my campaign, and especially my son Eli, my daughter Isla, my fiance Marie, and my predecessor, the Honorable Joyce Murray, for all the work that she did in this house as well. Here, here. I want to make sure that I move forward. We've always welcomed people in Vancouver Quadro. We welcomed Captain Narvaez in the 1700s. We welcomed my grandfather Hong Tim Hing in the 1920s. And we continue to welcome people from around the world. And I'll continue to work for each and every one of them. I say, Hai Chikasiam in my language, which means thank you, Mr. Speaker. Here, here.
The member for Abbotsford South Langley.
Canada had a balanced, effective immigration system. It worked for newcomers, Canadians, and our country. But after 10 years of the Liberal government, the system is in chaos. Liberals ignored warnings, cut corners on application vetting, opened doors for fraud and abuse in the temporary foreign worker, refugee, and international student programs. Now, over 1 million people are here with expired visa or expiring visas, and there is still no plan to address it.
Yeah, like
Canada
5
now has the
million,
highest
isn't there?
population growth in the G7, and the OECD confirms that the high immigration is straining our housing, our jobs, and our healthcare. Despite this, the Liberals issued 180,000 temporary foreign worker permits this year alone, a 10% increase from last quarter. This isn't sustainable. Canadians know it, the OECD and the Bank of Canada knows it. Why don't the Liberals?
Yes. The member for Mississauga, Aaron Mills.
Mr. Speaker, it's been 4 years since we lost the Afzal family, Madiha, Salman, Dalit, Yumna, in a horrific Islamophobic attack that left a 9-year-old orphaned and a community devastated. This was not just a hate crime, it was terrorism, driven by Islamophobia and targeted hate. More and more, we're experiencing violent hate in Canada that breaks hearts, steals lives, and impedes our collective identity. We need to do better. We remember the Afzal family, not just for how their lives ended, but for how they lived with love and with hope for a strong future. Tomorrow, as families gather to celebrate Eid al-Adha, we are reminded that they should have been here too, celebrating and surrounded by loved ones. We owe it to them and to everyone who has ever felt unsafe because of their identity to do better to protect Canadians against hate. Their lives mattered, their stories matter. We will remember, Mr. Speaker, and we will act. Thank you.
Member for Similkameen, South Okanagan, West Kootenay.
Mr. Speaker, while knocking on doors this past election, the number one thing I heard at the doors was the skyrocketing price of groceries. I heard from parents about the cost to feed their kids.
The moment she said anything about the price of groceries, I knew it was a conservative.
Prices kept rising.
Because liberals don't talk about that at all. Isn't that funny?
Stop?
Isn't that funny?
We know that food inflation at the grocery store since the start of this year is out of control. Beef up 34%, oranges up 26%, apples up 18%, and rice up 14%. Now, the Liberals are bringing in $500 billion in inflationary spending, increasing spending by 8% when they promised to cap it at 2%. Will the Liberals table a budget that reduces inflation and cuts taxes so Canadians can afford to feed their families?
The Honourable Member for Madawaska, Restigouche. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. On May 31st, the community of Val d'Amour in Restigouche celebrated an exceptional volunteer, Mr. Donald Leblanc, whose commitment spans over 50 years through his contribution to local governance, his active participation on many boards of directors and community organizations, his commitment to the Forest Workers Co-op, and his involvement in sports, recreation, and many other areas of community life. Mr. Leblanc has left a lasting mark on his region. As member for Madawaska Restigouche, I'm honored to recognize Mr. Leblanc's remarkable career of service, which embodies the values of dedication, solidarity, and public service that are the strength of our communities. I was delighted to be able to attend the evening event held in his honor, and I offer my sincere congratulations to Mr. Leblanc, and I thank him for his passion and for all the time that he's devoted to making a real difference in his community. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The London Fanshawe.
Mr. Speaker, Parliament is demanding a budget from this Liberal government.
Our Conservative motion passed requiring the Prime Minister to table a budget this spring. Yet the Liberals think they can spend $500 billion without a budget. Single moms, seniors, and small businesses don't get the luxury of budget-free spending, and neither should this government. Yesterday, the parliamentary budget officer warned clearly the Liberals' reckless spending means higher deficits and exploding interest payments on the federal debt projected to hit $70 billion per year. This means less money for hospitals and healthcare, schools, and teachers. Liberals shattered their promise to cap spending at 2%, instead increasing it by 8%. They broke their promise to reduce spending on consultants, ballooning it by 35% to a record-smashing $26 billion, while growing the bureaucracy by 44%. Canadians face nearly 7% unemployment, record-high missed mortgage payments, and food prices driving even full-time workers to food banks. Mr. Speaker, it's time for a responsible budget to reverse this lost decade of liberal waste inflation.
The honourable member for Halifax.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today to acknowledge World Environment Day and join the global community in recognizing the urgent need to end plastic pollution, this year's theme. In Halifax, surrounded by the Atlantic Ocean, we feel the impact of plastic pollution firsthand. Our marine heritage, vibrant coastal communities, fisheries, and rich ecosystems depend on a healthy environment. We don't see this work as just a necessity, we see it as an opportunity to innovate, to lead, to build a stronger economy, and to create a more resilient future for generations to come. Qu'il s'agisse de s'attaquer à la politique.
Whether it's tackling ocean pollution, advancing clean technology, or restoring natural habitats, Haligonians are stepping up with purpose and determination.
I want to thank Haligonians who are working hard to protect our environment today and every day.
Oral questions. Honourable Representative of the Conservative Party.
Sounding the alarm bells that interest on the federal debt will soar past $70 billion in 4 years. Debt interest payments already exceed provincial healthcare transfers, military spending, or total GST revenue. Yet this Prime Minister wants to spend even more money than Justin Trudeau did without tabling a budget. Canadians want to know, on what date will the Liberals table a budget?
It's rather simple.
Mr. Speaker, I'd like to thank the member for the question and thank him for doing a great first step this morning, Mr. Speaker. In fact, they voted for the motion, the Ways and Means motions, to do what, Mr. Speaker? To give a break to 22 million Canadians, Mr. Speaker. We told them that Canadians are watching. They watched this morning, but they will watch when we're voting on the main bill, Mr. Speaker. We hope that the Conservative will do the right thing to support Canadians at a time of need, Mr. Speaker.
Literally not even acknowledging the question.
That guy should apologize for collecting carbon tax for the last 10 years.
Conservatives are back, baby.
As investment flees, that unemployment rises and core inflation climbs. This Prime Minister already broke his promise of capping spending at 2%. Instead, he'll spend 8% and $500 billion of inflationary spending. Why don't the Liberals table a budget today and show Canadians exactly how much more economic vandalism they'll do than Justin Trudeau did?
Mr. Speaker, I have more good news for the member if he was to take the time to read. Not only we're giving a break to 22 million Canadians, but we're eliminating the GST for first-time home buyers up to $1 billion, Mr. Speaker. This is a great measure, but not only we're going to be removing the consumer carbon price, Mr. Speaker, from law. All these Conservatives should be celebrating because I know Canadians are celebrating at home today.
Honourable member for Haldimand Norfolk.
And he voted against all of that. Mr. Speaker, I ask you, would you sign a check for $486 billion without knowing where the money was going? That is exactly what this government is asking taxpayers to do. Sign a blank check for $500 billion that will inevitably lead to inflation. Conservatives and the Parliament have voted for the Liberals to produce a budget this spring. So when will this Prime Minister respect the will of Parliament and produce a budget?
Come on, Leslie. It's been years that she's been in the House, man. She's got to get better at these debates.
To answer that question, Mr. Speaker, because what the member is asking is what is in the main estimates. So I know that Canadians would be happy to learn that in the main estimates there are credits for dental care, Mr. Speaker, that are helping a lot of seniors across our country. We're talking about credits for childcare, Mr. Speaker, and I know there are members, there are people in our riding that are benefiting from that, and we're talking also about pharmacare, Mr. Speaker. Those are programs that are part of the fabric in Canada. They make Canada strong, Mr. Speaker.
Here, here. Member for Haldimand, Norfolk.
People in my riding will benefit when taxes go down. The Parliamentary Budget Officer has confirmed that this government's wasteful spending is costing Canadians $70 billion in interest payments just on the debt. That is more than they're spending on health care. The Liberals are back to their old ways of breaking promises. They broke their promise to cap spending at 2% and increased it by 8%. They broke their promise to cut spending on Liberal consultants and increased that by $7 billion. When will this Prime Minister produce a budget and stop wasting taxpayer dollars?
It's part of our democracy, man. We need to see a budget.
Speaker, you see the difference between the conservative us on this side is that on this side we're proud to support families, Mr. Speaker. We're proud of the dental care program, Mr. Speaker, that is helping our senior. We're proud to have the child care program, Mr. Speaker. And I can tell you, I was at the G7 recently, and colleagues were applauding Canada. Not only it's a great policy, but it's also an economic policy, Mr. Speaker, to generate growth in this country. On this side of the House, we're proud to support Canadians. I just hope the Conservative would come on board, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Essex.
Speaker, let's be clear. Donald Trump's 50% tariffs on Canadian steel and aluminum are wrong and unjustified. Facing enormous business and job losses, the very Prime Minister who promised to be elbows up is now allowing trade at the new Gordie Howe Bridge to collapse. The Prime Minister promised retaliatory tariffs to secure $20 billion to support steel and aluminum workers. Will the Prime Minister commit today to table a spring budget, or will he just let his empty promises rust?
The Honourable Minister for Canada-U.S. Trade and Intergovernmental Affairs.
Yeah, keep going, Mr. Speaker. It sounds great. Mr. Speaker,
It's a
our
pretty big
government
title.
received a mandate from Canadians to
that.
negotiate a new security and economic partnership with the United States. We entirely share our colleagues' view that the tariffs imposed not only on steel and aluminum at a ridiculously punitive rate of 50% are unjustified and illegal. So are all the other tariffs, Mr. Speaker, imposed on the Canadian economy. That's why Canada responded firmly and clearly, and we also said we'll support our industries and our workers as we get through this together.
The honourable member for Chicoutimi-Le-Fjord. Mr. Speaker, tariffs on aluminium imposed by President Trump are unjustified. It's an attack on our economy and on the workers in the sector. We have 4 aluminium mills in my region, 32% of Canadian aluminium production. The Prime Minister said that he was the man for the job. The Prime Minister said that he had a plan. But the reality is that tariffs, have gotten worse. What will he do to protect the workers of the Saguenay? The Honourable Minister responsible for Canada-US trade and intergovernmental affairs. Mr. Speaker, we wholeheartedly share the concerns of our colleague from Chicoutimi and the workers of the Saguenay. There are some of the best workers in Canada. The United States is dependent on Canada's aluminium production, and they decide to impose 50% tariffs. That will harm their economy. We understand that this is a worrying situation for workers and industry in Canada, and that is exactly the reason for which we will support workers, we will support industry. We're working with the government of Quebec and will continue to do so. The honourable member for Saint-Jean. Mr. Speaker, since yesterday, American tariffs on aluminium and steel have doubled, reaching 50%. After 3 months of conflict, time is running out for these industries, but after 3 months, there is still no support. The Prime Minister claims that he is in intensive talks with the Americans, and that's all well and good, but after 3 months, we should no longer be at the stage of intensive talks. We should be at the stage of intensive action. Our industries need cash, and they need
Well, you
wage
have the ability
subsidies.
to vote non-confidence.
After 3 months of doing nothing, will the Prime Minister finally protect our industries and our workers?
You have the ability to do something about it.
Minister for Canada-US trade. Mr. Speaker, once again, I can assure my colleague that we share the concerns of all Canadians when it comes to the negative effects of custom tariffs imposed by America. As I said in an answer just now, Quebec's aluminium industry and steel industry throughout Canada is one that America depends on. We've had staunch reprisals enacted. We are one of the only countries that had the spine to react, and we'll protect workers.
What do you mean react? You haven't done anything against
Mr. Speaker,
tariffs.
the touted Liberal magic is not working on Donald Trump, and Quebec is suffering as a result. It's our aluminium and steel that are subject to 50% tariffs now. It's in our forestry sector that we've heard about 2,000 layoffs. And that's not all. Yesterday, we learned that our aerospace industry is being targeted by Washington, D.C., which is considering tariffs by the end of the month. Yet in Ottawa, there's still no support for our key sectors, still no budget. It's still just improvisation. It's been 3 months, Mr. Speaker. We can't just wholeheartedly agree with our concerns. What is the government waiting for to protect Quebec's economy? The Honourable Minister for Industry. Mr. Speaker, obviously we are working every single day to fight against 50% tariffs on steel and aluminium. This morning alone, I met CEOs in the steel industry, and I'm in contact of aluminium CEOs as well. We will continue to fight against these tariffs. We will continue to protect our industries in Quebec and throughout Canada. We will also invest and build, and that is why we'll have a strong defence industry to support our jobs here in Canada and national projects, and I hope the Bloc Québécois will vote for.
Our defence industry is being mandated by America.
Mr. Speaker, with steel and aluminium tariffs doubling and 2,000 jobs lost in the forestry industry, the trade war is escalating. Our industries and our workers need support. They need a budget to be tabled. Yesterday, the speech from the throne was adopted on the condition that at least one economic update be tabled. So today, we're asking Liberals to honour their own speech from the throne. Will they keep their word for once and table an economic update with measures that will support Canadians and Quebecers right now? The Honourable Minister of Finance.
Greasy, man.
Mr. Speaker, I'd like to thank my colleague for his question. Indeed, measures have already been undertaken to support the various sectors of the Canadian economy. We've already provided for measures to be implemented, indeed, to fight against this trade war. Like my colleague said, on this side of the House, I've always said we'll fight against tariffs. We are fighting against tariffs. We'll protect industry and workers. We'll build a Canada together, Mr. Speaker. And I'm sure that our Bloc colleagues are happy to build a strong Canada with us.
The honourable member for Hastings, Lennox and Addington.
For years, the Liberals have promised families they will lower the cost of groceries, telling Canadians that relief is coming soon. And for years, they have failed families. Their Prime Minister himself said he will be judged by the price of groceries. Mr. Speaker, the cost of everything, from beef to oranges, up to over 25% since the beginning of this year alone. With an additional $500 billion in spending, adding more fuel to the food and inflationary crisis, why can't this Prime Minister even table a budget?
Honourable Minister for Jobs and Families.
It's greasy.
Mr. Speaker, since 2015, child poverty is down by 38%. That's because of programs like the Canada Child Benefit. That's because of programs like the childcare, affordable childcare that is all available all across this country. Mr. Speaker, we are working with families, we are working with youth and with children, and we'll continue to do that work together. We hope the opposition gets on board.
Member for Hastings, Lennox and Addington.
There's nothing to get on board with, Mr. Speaker. Unlike this government, Canadians actually have to budget their money in order to survive. They cannot tax and spend their way out of hunger. After their rent, mortgage, and utilities, they are left with fewer dollars than ever to buy the food their families families need, and those few dollars aren't going as far as they used to. Canadians are at their wits' end, and they expect and deserve a plan that delivers relief. Mr. Speaker, will this government exercise a modicum of competency and table a spring budget?
Yeah. The Honourable Minister for Jobs and Families.
You know what, Mr. Speaker? Competency would be not voting against legislation, bills, and programs that actually
Can't
put
answer a single
food
question,
in the
man. These
stomachs of
people are,
kids, like
like,
the Canada
totally
School
mentally
Nutrition
ill.
Program that is feeding over 400,000 children this year in partnership with provinces and territories. Every time there is a measure that is put forward by this government to ensure that kids have food, that parents have childcare, that parents have the money they need to raise their kids, this opposition party has voted against it. Let's be honest, Mr. Speaker, they're not there for families.
Honourable Member for
She's mentally ill.
Mountains.
Mr. Speaker, Bridges to Hope is a vital food bank in Newfoundland and Labrador that is being forced to double its size due to a 30% increase in demand. Wow. This surge reflects the harsh reality that more and more families cannot afford groceries. Beef up 34%, oranges 26%, coffee 9%. Canadians don't have any hope for relief without a clear fiscal plan. Will the Prime Minister finally table a budget that addresses the cost of living crisis and ensures Canadians can put food on their tables?
The Honourable Minister for Jobs and Families.
Mr. Speaker, we've talked about the reduction in child poverty, but you know, for adults, Mr. Speaker, between 18 and 65, it's gone down by 26% since 2015, and that's in large part because of the programs that we've actually put in place to help families. You know, we want to talk about reducing costs of food, Mr. Speaker. The Canada School Food Program reduces costs of groceries on average by $800 a year for every family. So, Mr. Speaker, let's see if they can get on board with programs that really help families.
Honourable Member for Long Range Mountains.
Mr. Speaker, Canadians will hold account by their experience at the grocery store. These are the words of the Prime Minister. Single mothers go to the grocery store, walk out with 2 bags of groceries, enough for 2 days. It costs them $100. Now the Liberals are bringing in $500 billion in new spending, increasing it by 8% when they promised to cap it at 2%. Once again, Mr. Speaker, will the Liberals table a spring budget that reduces inflation and cuts taxes so Canadians can afford to feed their families?
Yeah. It's only the Conservatives that are talking about cost of living. Isn't that
Mr. Speaker,
wild?
thank you. And you know, it's very important in St. John's and Newfoundland and Labrador that we protect children. And the school food program was such an important initiative. And I found it so disappointing that the opposition voted against it. I hope that when there is an opportunity to vote to support this program that does put food in children's bellies, the opposition and the member across will vote to support food for children.
Honourable Member for New-Tecumseh, Willenbury.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister has admitted he doesn't do his own grocery shopping. He doesn't even know how much a family of 4 spends on groceries. So he either doesn't know or care that Canadian families are struggling to put food on the table because of this Liberal government's failure to tackle inflation. Under the Liberals, the most expensive vehicle now in Canada, Mr. Speaker, to operate is the shopping cart. Will the Liberals put forward a budget plan that will lower inflation so Canadians can feed their families?
Honourable Minister for Jobs and Families.
Mr. Speaker, they either can't hear or it's a willful ignorance of their own past behavior. What we see repeatedly is them, the Conservative Party, voting again and again and again against families, whether it's the Canada Child Benefit, whether it's the National School Food Program, whether it's dental care that is providing support to families all across this country and alleviating costs, improving health of Canadians. They vote against it. They're voting against families every single time.
Honourable Member for New-Tecumseh, Willenbury.
Mr. Speaker, it's the Prime Minister who said, quote, Canadians will hold them accountable based on their experience at the grocery store. Well, their experience is a nightmare, and Canadians are getting fat up. Under this Liberal government, food prices have skyrocketed. But instead of offering a real budget plan, the Liberals are plowing ahead with $500 billion in new spending. Hard-working Canadians are having to foot the bill for this government's runaway deficits every time they shop for groceries. How is this acceptable?
The Honourable Minister for Jobs and Families.
Mr. Speaker, how is it acceptable when a government offers Canada Child Benefit that lifts over almost 500,000 children out of poverty, that the opposition votes against it, that they muse about cutting that program if they were ever to gain office? It's no wonder that Canadians chose us in the last election. They know who has their back. They know who's fighting for them. And these kinds of narratives don't match the reality they see from Conservatives.
You literally campaigned on fear.
The honourable member for Richmond.
Are you freaking kidding me?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Oh, my
Grocery
goodness.
prices have literally skyrocketed. The Liberals' 10 years of inflationary deficits have unfortunately pushed a record number of Canadians to food banks. I sadly ran into a former classmate at the food bank, my friend Francois. He works, he has a budget, but he still can't make ends meet. Children in Victoriaville in my riding are arriving at school with empty lunchboxes. Luckily, we have community organisations that help them. Will the Liberals finally table a budget that reduces inflation and lowers taxes so that our children can finally go to school with full stomachs? The Honourable Minister for Government Transformation. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. On the 28th of April, Canadians refused what the Conservatives would have done to make Canada's society regress. They would have cut in childcare benefits. They would have cut the dental care system that's just open for 18 to 64 years old, that's helped millions of Canadians. It's rather uncomfortable seeing them being ready to cut in these services. They should help us. The honourable member for Jonquière. Mr. Speaker, in my region, Rémabec has announced the layoff of 2,000 workers for an indefinite period. First, the Bloc Québécois would like to express its solidarity with the families affected. Mr. Speaker, for years we've been saying that the forestry industry needs liquidity access programs. For years we have said that we need to support local secondary and tertiary processing to add more value in the forestry sector. For years we've been saying that Ottawa must be required to favour wood products in its public construction and renovation contracts. 2,000 jobs lost in my region. What will it take for the government to finally act? The Honourable Minister for Industry. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The forestry industry is essential, and the Minister for Natural Resources and myself will work on this question. It will be a great joy for us to work with the member for the Bloc Québécois in order to protect and create jobs in his riding throughout Canada and throughout Quebec, where regions are being affected by the tariff wars, as is the case for the forestry industry. We will work on solutions, and we are ready to talk with my honourable colleague because we have solutions that are ready for him. Thank you very much. The honourable member for Saint-Hyacinthe.
They wouldn't know what to do with solutions if it hit them in the face.
The layoffs in the forestry industry illustrate what will happen to steel and aluminium if Ottawa does not change its formula. In other words, do nothing at all. We know it's not their trademark, but for once the Liberals could be proactive. Proactive in providing liquidity to the industry, proactive by creating a wage subsidy to prevent waves of layoffs. With tariffs doubling yesterday, is there any way, for once, for Ottawa to act before factories close and jobs disappear? The Honourable Minister for Industry. Contrary to my colleague, who just wants to shout and clamour, we actually want to bring solutions, and that's why I'm looking forward to potentially working with him. We have solutions on the table. We have provisions to help company liquidity. That's why today I talked with the steel industry CEOs to talk about what's available. So let us work together and let's be constructive, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Fundy Royal.
Mr. Speaker, Atlantic Canadians are suffering under a Liberal government that has allowed housing costs to double and housing inflation to rise faster in Canada than in any other G7 country. In Halifax, homelessness has doubled in just the last 2 years. Over 1,100 in the city are homeless, and 123 of those at least are children. These children do not want more government bureaucracy. They want a place to call home. When will this Prime Minister understand that doing more of the same is actually going to make the problem worse?
The Honourable Minister of Housing and Infrastructure.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. Thank you for the question. And homelessness is a huge challenge right across the country, and we face a huge challenge in tackling that with affordable housing. We need to be working with the cities and towns, with First Indigenous communities to make sure we are delivering. There's a reason we have a new government here, a new cabinet that's focused on building Canada. Focused first and foremost on building affordable housing.
He's full of shit, eh? You can see him hiding a smile.
The Honourable Member for Fundy Royal.
Mr. Speaker, the same old government with the same old failed solutions. This housing crisis didn't just happen. It's the direct result of 10 years of Liberal government mismanagement. After only a decade, rent in Canada has doubled. The amount required for a down payment to buy a home has doubled. Mortgages have doubled. The dream of owning a home in Canada is slipping away for many Canadians. When will this minister understand that doing more of the same and having the same failed policies is not going to result in a solution for Canadians?
I don't think they'll ever understand.
The Honourable Secretary of State. The Honourable Secretary of State for the Canada Revenue Agency and Financial Institutions.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thanks to the member opposite for the question. Mr. Speaker, I'm blessed to have the opportunity to answer questions in this House. But, Mr. Speaker, the member opposite would have a lot more credibility if he didn't vote against the Wrapping Housing Initiative, the Federal Co-Investment Fund, the Housing Accelerator Fund that his community wanted. Mr. Speaker, the Conservatives hold themselves up as stewards of housing. They are not. They voted against every housing initiative that we put forward to help Canadians. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Meadows, Maple Ridge.
Mr. Speaker, housing has become unaffordable under this Liberal government. According to CMHC, over half of Canadians are struggling to pay down their mortgages. 63% are worried about defaulting. 17% have missed a payment. 26% are using credit to pay off credit. In Greater Vancouver, homeowners are stressed out and not sure how they're going to make ends meet. Will the Minister of Housing acknowledge that Liberal economic incompetence has created this crisis and that we're halfway through the year and we still haven't got a budget?
The Honourable Minister of Housing and Infrastructure.
Speaker, well, contrary to Conservative disinformation, housing starts are up across the country right now. We are seeing both year-over-year increase in housing starts and certainly a large increase over when the leader of the Conservative Party was housing minister.
Right. That's excellent.
We are going to take this forward, Mr. Speaker, with the most ambitious housing plan that's ever been seen in Canada. We are going to build affordable housing across this country.
Honourable Member for Simcoe Grey.
Mr. Speaker, a new TD report says the Liberal housing plan to build 500,000 homes a year is likely to fall well short. But that's really no surprise, since this promise comes from the same party which said it would plant 2 billion trees. TD says even 400,000 homes a year is not possible, since housing starts in Canada actually declined by 30,000 units this year. Mr. Speaker, without a budget, there is no real plan for housing. When will this government table a budget so Canadians can know if this latest Liberal promise will allow them to afford a roof over their head?
Yeah, excellent question.
Minister of Housing and Infrastructure.
And we're not going to get a freaking
Mr.
answer.
Speaker, well, this new government is taking action on housing affordability with a GST cut for new home buyers. And we appreciate the support around the House for that initiative to make housing more affordable. But we're going to go a lot farther than that. We have to revolutionize how we build housing in this country with modular, off-site construction to make our industry more efficient, to deliver the housing faster, greener, and cheaper. Thank you.
The Honourable Member for Portneuf, Jacques Cartier. Mr. Speaker, buying a home is a dream for many young Canadians, but according to the CMHC, They are worried. They're looking at their budget, and 63% of them are worrying that they might default on their mortgage. The main reason for that being the increase in the cost of living. Instead of flying by the seat of its pants, this Liberal government should draw inspiration from our young people. Like them, it should make a budget. Will the government table a budget this spring, as a majority of members in this House are asking for? The Honourable Minister of Government Transformation. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Well, I'll start by saying that one of our government's first actions was to cut taxes for 22 million Canadians. On average, $840 cut per family. We are very proud of that direct, concrete measure to help Canadians and make life more affordable. But we didn't stop there. We eliminated the GST on a first home purchase of a new home, and that enabled first-time buyers to better access property. And what's really shocking is that the Conservative Party can't even support programs that help Canadians in his own riding, like the child benefit or the dental care program.
Mr. Speaker, the offshore energy in Newfoundland and Labrador brings tremendous economic benefit to our province. It creates jobs, opportunity, and prosperity for the people of Newfoundland and Labrador. This sector has grown with some of the strongest environmental protections in the world, ensuring economic growth alongside a healthy environment. What is the view of the Minister of Energy and Natural Resources on the development of offshore energy in Newfoundland and Labrador?
The Honourable Minister of Energy and Natural Resources.
Mr. Speaker, I want to thank the honourable member from Avalon for his question. Our government supports the development of offshore energy in Newfoundland and Labrador. Offshore energy is one of Canada's great strengths. It supports the people in the province with good wages, opportunities while developing it in a sustainable way. We will fast-track offshore energy projects to build the strongest economy in the G7. And go Oilers!
The honourable member for Airdrie Cochrane.
Words don't build pipelines, actions do. Actions like scrapping Trudeau's Bill C-69, his West Coast shipping ban, the industrial carbon tax, the Liberal energy cap. But the radical NDP premier and the radicals in this Liberal cabinet are doing all that they can to keep these policies in place and to block pipelines from getting built. So will the Prime Minister reverse all these Trudeau-era policies and make sure that he shows that he isn't just another wolf in sheep's clothing looking to kill our oil and gas industry?
The Honourable Minister of Energy and Natural Resources.
Canadians have told us they want us to build and retool our economy. The PM has been clear.
That's the wrong thing.
The PM has been clear. They want us to build. We want to build a low-cost, low-risk, low-carbon economy. Canadians will build the infrastructure that makes us the strongest economy in the G7.
Honourable member for Airdrie Cochrane.
Yeah, let's see it
He
happen.
can use all the nice words he wants, but they mean nothing without action.
Yeah,
and nothing
exactly
gets
right.
built without removing the barriers. Trudeau's C-69, his West Coast shipping ban, his oil and gas cap, the industrial carbon tax. This Prime Minister claimed that he's the man with the plan, but his plan for the oil and gas sector seems to be the same anti-energy approach as Justin Trudeau. It's time for the Prime Minister to be honest with Canadians. If he can't even find consensus amongst his own cabinet, how is he going to approve a pipeline?
Honourable Minister of the Environment and Climate Change.
Mr. Speaker, you know what gets things built? Working with the premiers from all the provinces and territories like we saw on Monday. We've heard from Canadians. Canadians want to see us build Canada in the face of what we're seeing of tariffs from Donald Trump. And that is exactly what we're doing. We're going to build a strong economy. We're going to be the strongest economy in the G7, and that's because we're sitting with the premiers and we're not taking advice from them.
America's in the G7. No, you're not building the strongest economy in the G7.
The Honourable
Full of
member
lies
for
and
Beauce.
false promises.
Mr. Speaker, there's a clear
God, it's
consensus.
so annoying.
There are more and more calls to build pipelines and energy infrastructure. Quebecers and people from Beauce want pipelines. The only obstacle is the federal government. If we build energy projects, we'll reduce our dependence on the U.S., strengthen the Canadian economy, and help Canadians earn more. We need to repeal anti-energy legislation. Why is this Liberal government making Canadians poorer? The Honourable Minister of the Environment and Climate Change. Mr. Speaker, Canadians have been very clear. They want us to build a strong country, a strong economy. And what did we see on Monday? We saw exactly that. The Prime Minister sat down with all of the premiers in the country and talked about what we're facing from the U.S. They talked about how to build a stronger economy together. We will not be taking any lessons from the Conservatives on this.
Nose Hill.
Speaker, the Liberals promised to cap foreign study permits, which also allow people to work in Canada. But new data shows that the Liberals blew their cap out of the water by handing out a whopping 500,000 foreign study permits last year, roughly the same population as all of Halifax. Why did the Liberals bring 500,000 foreign students to Canada during a massive housing shortage and while youth in Canada can't find jobs?
The Honourable Minister of Immigration, Refugees and Citizenship.
Mr. Speaker, thank you very much for that question.
Oh, goodness.
Those figures are inaccurate. It's misinformation. This new government is hard at work to improve our immigration system.
They are trying so hard to brand themselves as this new government.
Tuesday was an example of that. We are taking significant steps to preserve the integrity of our system while also upholding our humanitarian commitments, because we understand a well-managed immigration system is essential to a safer, stronger Canada.
The Honourable Member for Calgary Nose Hill.
So I got those numbers from the minister's website. I went on the website and I read them. So in the middle of a housing crisis, she brought 500,000 people to Canada. These people compete with Canadians for jobs, for higher housing and healthcare. If her department's numbers aren't the real numbers, what are the real numbers?
Well said. Put a W down. Put a W down. That was good.
Mr. Speaker, let me give the opposite member a lesson on immigration and on numbers and on permits of visa. There's many applications and many individuals. We recognize that to balance our immigration and to have a good country, we need temporary and we need permanent residents. Some applicants have multiple numbers, and so therefore I would suggest that we look into those numbers a little bit more in detail. Thank you.
What lesson was that?
Mr. Speaker, despite the Liberals promising Canadians that they're capping immigration, here are the facts. They added over 500,000 more international students. They approved nearly 180,000 more temporary foreign workers. And now we have millions in our country with expired or expiring visas and no plan on how they'll leave. Their mismanagement has put pressure on housing, on healthcare, and jobs. So after missing their own targets to lower immigration and losing control of the system, why should Canadians believe them anymore?
Yeah, that's right.
The Honourable Member, the Honourable Minister of Immigration, Refugees and Citizenship.
Mr. Speaker, international students are vital to Canada. Just go ask any of our provinces and any of our institutions. So are our temporary foreign workers. They are essential to our agricultural center, to our fishing center.
Well, who gave Minnie Mouse a freaking microphone?
Having said that, we understand in this new government that we need a balanced system. And for that reason, we have lowered the number of permanent residents as well as temporary numbers.
Mark Miller in the background makes this priceless.
Work efficiently with our system. Thank you.
You've ruined this country.
The Honourable Member for Louis Saint-Laurent, Akiawanrak.
These people are mentally ill.
Successful immigration is essential for the development of our country. But unfortunately, for the last 10 years, we have not had a successful immigration system. Instead, we've had an irresponsible system. And the real victims are immigrants themselves.
Mm-hmm. Delegitimizes the entire process.
5 million immigrants are currently dealing with expired visas. How is the government going to ensure that everything works out for them and for the country? The Honourable Minister of Immigration. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. On this side of the House, we understand very well that immigration is essential for the growth of our economy and in order to strengthen our communities.
Canadians want a solid, sustainable immigration system that would enable Canada and everyone who comes here to succeed. And on this side of the House, we are working hard to improve the system and make Canada stronger. The Honourable Member for Louis Saint-Laurent and Kewanrock. Mr. Speaker, I'd like to congratulate the Minister on her French, but that's where my congratulations end. The situation we're facing right now, they are the architects of the problems in our immigration system. They have been the architects of this system for 10 years, and even the King said in the throne speech that we need to bring balance back to the system. Now, when we said that 6 months ago, everyone called us intolerant. As we speak, our housing, education, and health systems cannot meet our current immigration needs. Why did the Liberal government let this human tragedy persist? The Honourable Minister of Government Transformation. Mr. Speaker, it is true that we need a balanced immigration system that is realistic about our capacity in Quebec and Canada. That is why we are gradually reducing immigration thresholds. We have also placed restrictions on visas. But we have his colleague for Oshawa North, who has said that we need to completely scrap the temporary foreign workers program. Meanwhile, his constituents, my colleague's constituents, are telling us that they need these temporary workers in order to keep our factories running throughout Quebec. Thank you.
Member for Kamloops, Thompson, Nicola.
700,000 doses of fentanyl, 32 illegal guns, 7 people on bail. These are the statistics from a recent raid just yesterday in York. I commend the police for doing such a good job. Hear, hear. I also condemn these Liberals for allowing this sort of crime to flourish in Canada. Indeed, catch and release is live and well in Canada. So why don't these Liberals accept the Conservative plan to end catch and release so we can crack down on gun and fentanyl traffickers? Hear, hear.
The Honourable Secretary of State for Combating Crime.
Mr. Speaker, like I've said before, we are committed to making it tougher for violent criminals to get bail and we will impose stricter sentences for repeat violent offenders. But let me be clear, Mr. Speaker, the provinces and territories have a critical role to play in the administration of bail. They must ensure that they have the capacity needed when it comes to prosecutors, judges, JPs, jails, just to name a few things. This is imperative in order to get our streets safe. The law currently says that people who are at risk of reoffending or a flight risk should not be given.
The Honourable Member for Burnaby Central.
Mr. Speaker, illegal fishing in international waters lead to damage here at home and abroad. In the Pacific Ocean, dark vessels fish indiscriminately, using illegal gear and catching endangered and at-risk species. This hurts wild Pacific salmon, as well as global supply chain that we and our allies rely on. Can the Minister of Fisheries tell us what Canada's new government is doing to combat illegal fishing in international water?
Honourable Minister of Fisheries.
He shake his hand after.
Illegal fishing is appalling.
Must have been his first
and that's why
time.
Canada has taken a key role in the fight through Operation North Pacific Guard. Our expertly trained fisheries officers and Canadian Coast Guard crew are currently working to ensure that we disrupt the activities that lead to illegal fishing. I'm also pleased to say that the crew of the Sir Wilfrid Laurier are currently engaged in this mission. And to the crew of the Wilfrid Laurier, I wish you fair seas and following winds.
Member for Kildonan and St. Paul.
Mr. Speaker, we learned some disturbing news today. A Liberal cabinet minister from Manitoba has been found to have a serious history of harassment and unprofessional conduct in the workplace. A former subordinate said they endured humiliation, intimidation, and months of psychological warfare by this minister in her previous job. This is obviously completely unacceptable and unworthy of a minister of the Crown. The Prime Minister decides who sits around the cabinet table. So was he unaware of this disturbing history of workplace abuse, or did he know and just didn't care?
The Honourable Government House Leader.
Mr. Speaker, my colleague is obviously committed to fostering a healthy work environment for everyone in the workplace, characterized by collegiality and mutual respect, and that's what we have to say on the matter. Thank you.
The honourable member for Kildonan St. Paul.
Mr. Speaker, the victim's experience was substantiated by independent review conducted by a law firm, and many people have been victims of workplace bullying, and few have the courage to speak out, but this brave woman did, and she attempted to contact the Liberal Party, who didn't even dignify her with a response. So really, what message does this send to victims that if your boss engages of months of psychological warfare, the Prime Minister of Canada may promote them to the highest offices in the land? Truly, this is an unacceptable standard, or does the Prime Minister disagree? Does he believe this is acceptable?
Wow, well said. Put some W's down in the chat.
My colleague is a person of integrity who has been involved in public service on many levels, who has opted to serve her constituents and the public in this way. She's committed to healthy workplaces. She's committed to respect. She's committed to compassion, and she will be working hard to deliver results for her constituents, the people of Manitoba, and indeed all Canadians.
Member for Aurora, Oak Ridges, Richmond Hill.
Mr. Speaker, after 10 years of the Liberal government's catch and release policies, Canadian communities are riddled with rising and record crime. People are waking up in the morning hopeful that their car will still be in the driveway. Car thefts have hit record highs in municipalities like Aurora and Richmond Hill. Even worse, violent crimes like home invasions and blatant smash and grab robberies have become a regular occurrence in the Greater Toronto area. Mr. Speaker, when will these Liberals finally focus on the safety of our communities and ensure jail before bail for violent criminals?
The Honourable Secretary of State for Combating Crime.
Well, Mr. Speaker, I want to take an opportunity to say today we are debating C2, one of the first measures this government has taken to making our streets safer. We are committed to doing the work that's necessary, and there's also good news. The Chief of Toronto has stated that auto thefts have decreased by nearly 39%, home invasions down 42%, homicides down 67%, and shootings down 46%. Mr. Speaker, we will be there to protect Canadians.
Honourable member for New Westminster, Burnaby, Myardville.
Mr. Speaker, I want to thank the people of New Westminster, Burnaby, Millardville for the incredible work they do, both locally and globally.
Who's this? Liberal?
I've seen organizations having real impact, from small businesses like Kozak Ukrainian Eatery to faith-based groups like Gurdwara Sahib Sukh Sagar. It's organizations like these that play a huge role in the community. Can the Minister please share how our government is supporting groups like these to continue making a difference?
The Honourable Secretary of State for International Development.
Supporting small and medium-sized Canadian organizations is a top priority for our new government. Organizations like Cooperation Canada, Nutrition International, and the Humanitarian Coalition are just some of those bringing Canadian expertise to communities that need it most. With tens of thousands of Canadians working in this sector, these efforts create jobs at home and build a stronger, self-sufficient partners abroad. I've been meeting with sector leaders and will keep working with them to ensure every dollar has maximum impact.
Member for St. John, St. Croix.
Mr. Speaker, a convicted child sex offender in New Brunswick recently was sentenced to jail. But instead of going to prison, he was released back into the community on bail pending his appeal. He's now living just 600 meters from a school. The community is shocked Canada's justice system is so soft on crime. Parents are deeply worried. The victim's family feels betrayed. Will the minister finally admit that Canada's bail laws are broken and fix the loopholes to stop convicted child sex offenders from receiving bail?
That's freaking messed up.
The Honourable Secretary of State for Combating Crime.
Mr. Speaker, once again, I'd like to say the bill that we have tabled and are debating today is going to make it easier for our policing authorities to be able to catch predators of child exploitation. But like I've said before, Mr. Speaker, we're committed to making it tougher for violent criminals to get bail, and we're going to impose stricter sentences for repeat offenders. But like I've said before, Mr. Speaker, the provinces have a huge role to play in the administration of justice, and bail is given by provincial courts. They must do their part as well. The current law states that people who are at risk to the public
I kind of wanted her to finish.
The honourable member for
I wish she got to finish that, to be honest.
Parliamentary
budget officer has examined this government's fiscal commitments, and he's warning that the numbers just don't add up. Among his troubling findings, the PBO says there's no way the Liberals can meet their spending targets without, quote, severe cuts to public service. Mr. Speaker, federal services provide critical supports to Canadians across the country, especially needed in this time of economic crisis and threats from Donald Trump. Will this government come clean and admit that they can't keep the promises they've made to Canadians?
L'honorable ministre des Finances.
I'd like to thank my colleague for his very important question. We are very committed to present a very responsible fiscal framework, a framework that will build Canada, Mr. Speaker, in a responsible way, in a sustainable way, and that's going to make Canada strong. And I'm delighted to see that the member is considering voting in favor of a bill that's going to be presented in this House that's going to make a difference for 22 million Canadians. Mr. Speaker, I would say that would be a great start for the NDP to follow the Liberals in voting for Canadians.
Honourable member for Winnipeg Centre.
Mr. Speaker, tens of thousands of good-paying jobs are being threatened by 50% tariffs on steel in the auto, aerospace, and building sector. The Prime Minister said he would stand up to Trump.
But, Mr. Speaker, we cannot trust the Liberals. There's no Minister of Labour. They are forcing people back to work, and they want to replace workers by artificial intelligence.
Speaker, why won't the government reform EI and income supports and place countermeasures on U.S. steel to protect workers?
The Honourable Minister for Jobs and Families.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. And maybe the member opposite missed the announcement where this government already took action to change EI to make it easier for workers that are impacted by unfair and illegal tariffs to access the EI, including waiving the one-week period, Mr. Speaker, keeping their earnings, and making sure that people can access EI in areas where unemployment is growing. We'll continue to work on EI and make sure that it serves the needs of workers who are deeply impacted in these difficult times.
Well done.
And that does it for question period.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, that's the end of question period. I want to thank everybody for tuning in. It was an all right episode, man. It wasn't too bad. It wasn't the greatest, but it wasn't too bad. We held strong at over 2,000 concurrent viewers, which ain't half bad, man. Since Pierre's not in the house, the motivation and the political interest that people have is kind of hitting an all-time low, but we're trying our best to make it interesting. You know what I'm saying? We're doing our best. Hope you guys had a good time. I know, question period, question mark, not a single question got answered. I get you, Craig, right? I'm with you, man. It's annoying. It is absolutely annoying. But nonetheless, it's still nice to watch it with other people. You know, the comment section is, well, you guys know what you are. You're animals. You're all animals down in the comment section. We had a good time, though. We'll be back, I guess, on Monday, because tomorrow's Friday, and I don't like to stream on Fridays, but you never know. Maybe I will stream. You never know. Maybe we'll do a surprise stream tomorrow. I mean, it's not a surprise if I announce it, so you don't know. But turn post notifications on. Hit that like button. Subscribe to the channel. And, was there any super chats? Did I not read any super chats? Was there super chats? Let's take a look here. YouTube's not even showing them. YouTube's so broken. I'm trying to pull up the super chats. And YouTube ain't even having it. Let's see here. Nope. Something went wrong, it says. Oh, for crying out loud. Well, thank you to those who did super chat. I would usually read them now, but it's not working. I'm trying to pull it up on my screen. Yeah, YouTube's busted. We're almost at 129,000 followers, by the way. If just a handful of you who haven't yet subscribe right now. We might get there. Oh, there you go. I finally got it. Save Canada with the 10 Canadian. Let's be honest. These guys are super corrupt, and the next vote will be done in private also. Didn't Trudeau's mistress say China is our ally? Let's face the music. Canada is now a communist country. It certainly feels that way. It certainly feels like Canada is a communist country. Thank you, Save Canada, for that 10. Jim Smith, a.k.a. Cod Snapper. Oh, that's a name I haven't seen in a while. 699. You can do it. I've been smoke-free 6 months after 43 years of smoking. Right. At the start of the stream, I did say that I was quitting smoking. It's tough. It's tough. But you know what? You know what's going to help is tonight I'm handing off my kids to my mom. Got a babysitter for the night. Awesome. And that just means kid-free night. Get to just relax a little bit in silence, you know? Get to just sit there with your thoughts and not be like, you know what I'm saying? I don't want to say bother because the kids aren't a bother to me or my wife, but it's nice to have a night off from the kids. And so that actually helps. When I do that, it just helps. I don't feel the need. Okay. Not that I feel the need to smoke because of my kids. That certainly is not what I was implying. But it is a little quieter and just get to relax and like do my thing and not worry about the kids, which is a nice feeling from time to time. So yes, it'll be good to not. Oh, if I can get through today without smoking, then tomorrow should be easy peasy. I don't need the 3 days or 2 weeks or whatever people say. I just need like 24, 36 hours and then I'm good. I'm a professional cigarette smoker quitter. But thanks for that. Thanks for the motivation, guys, and the relatability to quit and smoke them. Penny Lee with the new member. Thank you for joining Canada. Canadian A. How about that Oilers game last night too? Wasn't that half bad? Or half decent? Not half bad. It's not bad for the Panthers. Man, down to the last 31 seconds of overtime period, and they just freaking put it in, man. That was great. I screamed, yeah, yeah. Okay. William V with a 699. Can we make a petition to keep Parliament open over summertime? I don't think so. I don't think that would work. That's a good idea, but I don't think that would work, unfortunately. I mean, they're just going to do what they want anyways. Cuba Bound says, I'm not going to quit. I'm not a quitter. It's more of a public service. That's pretty funny. I think I got all those super chats, folks. We're going to end it here before more start rolling in because I want everybody to go enjoy the rest of their day. Hopefully it's good weather where you are. It's good weather where I am. Go spend time with your family, your friends, and enjoy today's day off from hockey. And likely won't be any crazy news announced today, but you never know. The G7 is about to take place. When is the G7? G7, oh, June 15th. So in a couple of weeks, in a week and a bit. Okay. 15 days. 15 days. All right. Yeah. So nothing crazy is probably going to happen today, but stay tuned, stay close to your phone, turn notifications on, you know, the whole shebang. Anyways, peace and love. Enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you for the super chats, and I'll see you guys on the next live stream.